On this podcast, you will hear a rundown of all that we did as fellows on the MTN Media Innovation Program. A fellowship that started in May and ended in October 2024. And also on this podcast, I had an interview with a past fellow of Cohort 2, Victory Wilson, on the journey and the impact after her conclusion. It is going to be an amazing podcast. Welcome. My name is Oma. You're very sweetheart on radio, TV, social media, sweetheart everywhere. Glad to have you join me on Oma's Diary, where I chronicle my journey as a broadcast, social impact volunteer, a journalist, and so many things in one, where I tell my stories and I tell the stories of others. Welcome and let's journey together.
Oma talk.
All right, welcome back to my podcast. I am Oma, your very sweetheart on radio, TV, social media, sweetheart everywhere. So when we got the invitation later and on the fact that we were selected as fellows on the MTN Media Innovation Program Cohort 3, which is built. So welcome to my podcast. My name is Oma, your very sweetheart on radio, TV, social media, sweetheart everywhere, and this is Oma's Diary. So when we all got the letter, I can actually speak for myself. When I got the letter that I was selected as a part of the Cohort 3, I was excited. I said, yay! Because it's kind of a dream come true, right? I was actually in touch with a fellow from the past cohort 2, all right? And I followed her up, and amazing, she always told me that it is an executive treatment that I need to get on this fellowship. And by the special grace of God, I got on this particular fellowship, and I can begin to express how it has changed my lives, the people I've met, the lecturers, the classes, and most importantly, the school, Pan Atlantic University. I would actually say that I had a feel, right? I went through school and school went through me, right? Having to go through this course at Pan Atlantic University, I learned about a culture of excellence. I always tell people that there is a culture of excellence that I intentionally look out for when I go to other universities in Nigeria, and I look forward to having that culture, that same culture of excellence that I saw in Pan Atlantic University in other universities in Nigeria. Honestly, it is an amazing, spot-on culture of excellence. Kudos to Pan Atlantic University, Lekki, Lagos State, Nigeria. So let me give you a rundown of the courses we had, what we were taught. All right, it was an immersive. The courses were prepared in such a way that it was an immersive experience, right? Something that you've been doing, you thought you are a pro in it, and someone comes to tell you there are other ways you can get this done. That was exactly what we had. It was a lived experience. It was an experiential learning. The choice of picking the lecturers, they didn't just pick ordinary lecturers. They picked, I'm talking about PAU, that's Pan Atlantic University. They didn't just pick lecturers. They picked lecturers that had experiences. If they talked about business, they would pick a lecturer that did business. Anything they wanted us in curating the courses, they picked people that were doing that. And I wasn't just inspired by what we're taught, right, or what we're exposed to. I was also inspired by the quality of lecturers. I found out that almost all the lecturers that came to teach us, is either they are presenting papers or they've presented papers in a university that's outside Nigeria. They've written papers, uncountable papers. They are doing this, they are doing that, they've studied this. And I'm wondering, at what point did these people get all these qualifications? And it speaks to the fact that we can do so much. We should not limit ourselves. We are unlimited actually, because all the lecturers that came to teach us, my goodness, they've written papers here, they've done this, they've done so much. and they are speaking with experience. That alone inspired me. All right, so we had media culture and society. I mean, this was what we had in the first week. That's in May, because the classes, it's actually 1 week every month from May till October. So we were literally going to school 1 week every month till our South African trip. Of course, I've done a podcast on our South African trip, so I'm not actually repeating that here. So we had Media Culture and Society by Dr. Richard O. Ikebi, and he actually made a salient point. He said, enjoy yourself, make the best out of it, make good friends. Life is a short ride. You will benefit more from the friends you will make. I've talked about this particular lecturer in one of the podcasts I did about this program, and I think it was really a wise decision to have Dr. Richard Ikebi come talk to us first in that first week. It was, my goodness, it was a reset. I needed that reset, right? It was really, it was after Dr. Richard Ikebi, after we had him, we experienced him in May, that I got back. We started working, I and my co-author, we started working on safety code. I and Linda, we started working. I pushed, because Dr. Richard, he talked to us about collaboration. He said a lot of things. We pushed each other, and we came up with safety code, right? So it's safe to say that I was really, really inspired starting from the first week of our fellowship. Then we had the concept of innovation and its imperatives for media practitioners by Frank Aibogun, who is the publisher, Business Day. It was an interesting, because we actually did the business of a newspaper, the business of print, online. And that same week, we were introduced to our project assignment, which is for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. The project, of course, that we all defended during the last week of the fellowship. Then Introduction to Entrepreneurship Principles and Practice, which we had. It was Dr. Peter Bamkole who actually took us on that one, where he talked about market domain. He said a lot of things about allowing your clients experience your goods, products and services, which is very important. And he also talked to us about business model canvas, which is really interesting, very, very interesting. Then we were shared into groups. There was group assignments. And moving on, Management Principles and Practices by Dr. Nkem Ihanacho, where we got the essential skills for managers, communicating and influencing. I must say, it was really an interesting conversation we had on that day. Okay, and we also, after the class, we had visitors from the past cohort led by the president, Mike Okwoche, who is now with Russian TV, and they came to inspire us. They came to, to play the big brother role, and they did play well. Victory Wilson was also there on that day, right? And she told us about her pet project, and it was really inspiring. Then we also had Branding and Etiquette for Media Practitioners by Dr. Ruth Oji, and she did say, in reality, AI will only replace people who does not learn how to use it. Like, if you are not learning how to use AI, you stand the chance of being replaced. I mean, she said a lot of things about branding, personal branding, how we actually need to build our brand online and offline. Very important for journalists. Then on that particular week, we also had Barrister Tommy Vincent, and he spoke to us on media laws, principles and practice. It was quite interesting, of law and thereabout. Then Taxation, Business Policies and Regulation by Dr. Olusegun Vincent. Understanding taxes associated with media SME businesses. It was really an impactful teaching that he had that day, because I remember that day, one of us who owned a radio station, he shared a lot of things that really gave him insight on how taxation works on businesses. And he did say that as a business, that you ought to always pay taxes to the government. With that, week 1 ended. Remember, some of these classes are 2 hours, 3 hours plus. Then Of course, it had comfort time when we had to take our comfort like 10 minutes thereabout, comfort rest, 10 minutes. We need to walk about and all that. It was really, really an impactful. Then May gone. Then second week, June, we started with ICT. It looked like everything about ICT and the media, the necessary convergence. We had Dr. Shola Oni. All right, we went through everything about ICT and the media, digitalization, evolution of new media, digital media, benefits of convergence, and everything, right? And she did advise us and suggest to us that any platform that comes up, we should check it out. As a media person, always check out platforms, right? Then we had the next day, Tuesday, we had revenue models, building a tech stack and optimizing ad revenue by Nini Eze from Google. We went through digital journey, Google tools, Google Forms, Google Analytics, how we can actually make money on Google, how we can have products and translate them to money on Google. She said there is a lot of money on Google, so we need to start making this money on Google, right? She revealed that a lot of statistics. It was a lot. It was a lot. Okay, then we had corporate communication management strategies by Funsho Aina, Senior Manager, External Relations, MTN Nigeria. He talked to us about what MTN has invested. Communication is a two-way process. He also talked to us about storytelling, and it was really, really inspiring, right? Very, 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 it was key. Then the next day, we had creativity and innovation by Dr. Chike Mbe Adichie, and it was really inspiring as we went into the elements of thought, types of thinking, vertical thinking, lateral thinking. He exposed us into a lot of things. It was really interesting, really, really interesting. And I must say that at the end of each class, when we come the next class, we are given the opportunity to recap the class. We were all shared into groups, right? And the essence of that group, I believe, was to help us bond, apart from bonding, to help our public speaking, and it really worked wonders, because at the end of each class, the next day, the group in charge, a group of 4 or 5 persons, they will recap the class, and it was really, really inspiring. We used that opportunity to bond. Then we also had good dressing habits by Mrs. Nkiru Ukachukwu. She actually told us that our appearances communicate messages, and as media personalities, we should always dress well. Then we had graphic design for media practitioners, where we learned that creativity is intelligence and just having fun. And I think one of the things I learned that day will be cyan, magenta, yellow, and kaolin. Then he also talked to us about red, green, blue, telling us about if you want to design something, look out for colors. He simplified it for us. We can use Microsoft PowerPoint or even Canva to design a campaign. At the end of the class, we were all given an exercise to design a flyer, and it was really interesting. Then we had fake news and new media tools for media practitioners by Dr. Ijoma Onyato. It was an interesting conversation also, because we looked at fake news items intentionally planted in the media with the aim of confusing or misleading the audience. We also did class exercises, and we were let into AI tools like Chat GPT, Gemini, OSIS, OTA, Microsoft Copilot, and the rest. Right? Very important. Then we had a visit from MTN Foundation, Mrs. Odunaya Sanya, who came to talk to us about MTN Foundation, about how they align with Sustainable Development Goals 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 17, and that they prioritize. All they do in the foundation, they also look forward to sustainability, and that's training of recipients, partnerships. She also told us about funding models, volunteerism, incentives. And I learned a new term that day, corporate social investment, right? It's not only corporate social responsibility, but investment, because when you are investing, there should be return on investment. You don't just invest. the people you are investing in should replicate the investment, which is really important. Then new media content creation and engagement by Mr. Muyiwa Alesh. It was really interesting. Leveraging new media and tech for growth. Creativity versus media, brand building, the African landscape, AI enabling business, the buyer's journey, and of course, prompt engineering. We learned prompt engineering on that day. It was really interesting. And that was the end of week 2. Then we moved on to week 3. Week 3 looked like a week where we got involved with a lot of telecoms, ICT, more telecoms, more ICT. It was we started with telecoms and ICT landscape in Nigeria by Ikenna Ikeme, General Manager, Regulatory Affairs, MTN Nigeria Communications PLC. It was really interesting, but I must say, lots and lots of terms. We looked at the evolution of technology in Nigeria, telecoms regulatory landscape, global perspective, common features spectrum, radiation. My goodness, it was a lot of terms, like a lot of terms on that particular. Yeah, at a point I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? But it was interesting because I got to learn a lot of things I didn't know before. Right? Then we moved on to 5G, IoT, and the future of tech by Ugonwa Nwoye. All right, 5G relative to 4G, global IoT market potential by 2025. We saw a lot of things, what MTN is doing, how MTN is well positioned to support and enable transformation of IoT and the rest. Then we had the IP lawyer, Mrs. Ifoma, and she talked to us on intellectual property toolkit for the innovative media practitioner, intellectual property in Nigeria, about trademarks, patents, and types of intellectual property. It was really a lot, right? It was a lot. Okay. Then we moved on to AI and the media by Ebuka Ezewuzie from MTN. We also looked at history and evolution of AI, machine learning, automated content, deep learning, generative AI. Amazing. Ethical consideration, managing the human AI interface. Then the next day we went to KPMG, where we looked at customer growth and retention. Online shoppers, email click-through, website activities. These were some of the things we were taught at KPMG. Then we visited Huawei, where we went through 5G, IoT, and at the end of it all, we were given a certificate for, it was just a basic training on 5G and IoT. It was really interesting going through the Huawei company in Lagos. Then, the next day, Fire Mama Aisha Mumuni, she talked to us on building a digital economy for Nigeria's future, a vast value-added services. We looked at sector digitization opportunities. She exposed us to what MTN is doing and what we can actually do digitally. It was a lot. Then we had the e-commerce business and revenue models. It was really interesting. I think that particular day I came late to the class. Not that I came late, we had to go to the visa office. So by the time I came back, the class had already gone so far. But I was still able to get something, before you get into e-commerce. Study the environment, move with the change, don't be late. Don't be a late adopter, okay? A comprehensive risk assessment is essential before launching into any business. That's any e-commerce business. E-commerce is the use of internet and web to transact business. Very important. It began in 1995. It was really an interesting conversation. Then the subscription business model for journalism by Mr. Anthony Osai Brown from Bloomberg. It was really an interesting conversation that we had with him. Business journalism, becoming a business journalist. I remember that day he was even teaching us and was working. That's how important he is in the scheme of affairs. I remember that day clearly. He was teaching us and he will always tell us that he's always on the go, that he needs to deliver. I mean, that's the kind of journalist we should all be. That's the kind of media practitioners we should all be. We should be on the go. I mean, that's part of the reasons why MTN is sponsoring the Media Innovation Program in collaboration with Pan Atlantic University. Okay, so we went into week 4. That was in August. And we started with Ethical Concepts for Media Practitioners by Juan Manuel Elegido. I remember him saying, telling us how to pronounce his name, Elegido. You know, ethical concepts for media practitioners, objectivity, balance, protection of sources, professional responsibilities. These were the things that we were taught. Then overview of the Nigerian economy by Dr. Stanley Nwane. Quite interesting. You know, we learned so much about economy and how the economy works, what we can do, how we can leverage the economy, and what we can actually do differently. Then we also looked at strategic planning and strategy implementation skills by Charles Iwona. That was where I learned. I've always heard about it, but it never stuck. But that was where I learned about the SWOT analysis. That is your strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. It was really, really amazing. And what, where, why, how, when, who? If you can ask yourself this question, whatever it is you're about to do, what is the what? Where, why, how, when, who? He describes them as the balanced scoreboard. You know, the class was so real. Like, it was so real. I was so happy that I participated in that class that particular day, right? Then we looked at emotional intelligence by Dr. Silk Obu. You know, if you really want to succeed in life as a journalist, whatever it is you want to do, you need to learn emotional intelligence because it's going to help you go higher in life. And yes, in August, our classes, instead of coming once a week in a month, our classes were merged together in August. So after the August class, we now traveled to South Africa, and it was another class altogether because it was back to back. We spent 1 week in South Africa, so it was back to back of activities. On the side, before the actual classes started, we visited Soweto, we went to Mandela House, we went to Apartheid Museum, we went to Chinatown, we also went to China Mall, we went to Santon, we went to different places. We needed to have a feel. I mean, MTN actually gave us a feel of South Africa, and it was really beautiful. South Africa has a beautiful weather. The people are beautiful. The people are amazing. It was really interesting and inspiring. And most importantly, the visit to Apartheid Museum, it really, really inspired me. You know, what inspired me is the fact, especially when we went to Mandela House, the fact that even long after Mandela had left Earth, his house, people pay to come into his house to go on a tour. That speaks of the level of positive impact. I was impacted. I was positively impacted in the sense that I should live for the impact. I should so much impact people. It's not just about me. It's about impacting others positively. And the Apartheid Museum, all the stories that I read about apartheid and everything, it became so real, and it was really an inspiring and a life-changing opportunity. Our visit to South Africa, that's the study trip. I mean, it's 1 in a million, honestly. From one place to another. On Monday, we visited the MTN group, in South Africa, where we had presentations. We also met Dominic Kumalo, MTN Ghana. We met a whole lot of MTN staff members, and there was also a panel discussion where they discussed the bilateral relationship between Nigeria and South Africa. So it's quite interesting. Then Tuesday, we were at SAA, South African Institute of International Affairs, founded in 1934, where we actually discussed a lot of interesting issues, right? Then we also on Wednesday, it was a summit at the University of Johannesburg, Sustainability of Media Business in the Digital Era. There was a panel discussion. Then, of course, I met Miss Nada Wocheda, who is the group exec of SABC Radio. We also had our very own Stephen Ambolu, who presented a paper. It was marvelous. It was amazing. Then on Thursday, it was Evolving Media Landscape in the Era of Social Media. We had Professor Admire Mare. It was quite interesting. We had back-to-back lots of activities when we were at South Africa. Then on Friday, we met with the chairman of MTN Group, and we had a brief talk on Africa and the role of MTN. It was really interesting. And we also met with Thabo Mbeki, former president of South Africa. And I've already made a podcast on the meeting we had with Thabo Mbeki. All right. If you scroll through my podcast, you're going to find out the podcast. And about our journey to South Africa, I also have a podcast on the journey to South Africa where the fellows spoke about how they feel and what they felt, their experiences during the South African study trip. It was really interesting. It's amazing to know that we are gradually getting to the end. Because we'll be looking forward to our graduation. Then we came back from South Africa and we had the 6th week. The 6th week started online with our dean, SMC, that's the School of Media and Communication, Obiaya Ikechukwu, who took us on critical thinking and how to creatively think critically, And he also emphasized on the building blocks. He called them the building blocks. That's the where, the what, the when, the who, the how. He calls them the building blocks. Elements of reasoning, implications. It was actually online. Okay? And then the second day, we had another class. That class was taken by Dr. Ruth Orji on the basic grammar. It was really interesting, right? Then we now traveled to Lagos for the final week. And during the final week, the first day, we were taken to the MTN cable landing site. That's a submarine cable landing site. It was really interesting. It was really interesting and amazing. Then that same week, we had, that's same Monday, we had a meeting with the MTN CEO, Carl Torella, and other executives. I've already made a podcast on it, so I'm not going to dwell so much on it on this podcast. Actually find everything about the meeting on this platform, right? Just scroll down and you are going to find it. Okay, so then on Tuesday, we had project management by Adeyinka Aderoju. It was really market knowledge and insight. It was amazing. Okay, then the next day, which will be on Wednesday, we also had the marketing research. That was the cocoa. Methodologies of market research, qualitative and quantitative, right? As in, everything was so amazing. Not just amazing. The concept, sample quotation, the fact that I learned about focus group discussion. I also learned about qualitative and quantitative methods of market research. I also learned that big organizations, before they take decisions on, maybe as a journalist, I do jingles, but before they create jingles, right, they do research. So marketing research is a big deal. It was after that class that I found out that marketing research is really a big deal. Then on Thursday, we all, the 20 fellows, we all defended our projects one after the other. It was really amazing. And finally, on Friday, we went to the beach and we rounded up everything about the fellowship. I actually look forward to our graduation, which will be in November. And while looking back, while reflecting on the journey, while reflecting on everything that happened while as a fellow, while on the fellowship, 6 months fellowship, all expense paid trip to South Africa, the learnings, everything. It hasn't been easy, I must say, but we went through with it, right? I must say congratulations to every one of the fellow. I mean, you are all executives. You're all amazing. So while reflecting on the journey so far and what the future holds for every one of us, I decided to get in touch with a past fellow of cohort 2, Victory Wilson, to share her story of the impact of the MTN Media Innovation Program on her career, her life after, I mean, this is 1 year on after the fellowship, so that it will definitely inspire and encourage and motivate us that are just stepping out of the fellowship. Kindly take a listen, and I'll see you at the other side of this.
So MTN-MIP opened amazing doors. I mean, well, before the MTN-MIP, I was doing well in my career. I was already a multi-award winning broadcast journalist, but I hadn't won a national award. MTN-MIP gave me that standing. I never expected to be on the same list as Shunwo Kibaloye of Channels Television. I was there. I never even expected to win. I didn't even know anything about the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, nothing. But I won, and that was a very big break in my career. Before being an MTN-MIP fellow, I only knew things about presenting, a little bit about production, and all of that media stuff. I never knew so much about taxes, law, and the other nitty-gritty, back-end nitty-gritty of media, of making money from media, until the training. I wrote my project during the MTN-MIP training was a social enterprise I had passion about, because I also have a kids show, the Amazing Kids Show. That project that I wrote is what I executed, and this year I've been having Children's Day Talent Fair every year for like 3 years, but this year was the 4th edition, and for the first time I did this in partnership with United Nations Information Center, in partnership with many other brands like I would always have. But getting United Nations on the team to collaborate with me was a big icing on the cake, and I wouldn't have done that if I had not learned from the training. Right. MTN-MIP also gave me a right standing when it comes to negotiations. I mean, you have certifications, and then you have a certification from Pan Atlantic University School of Media and Communications. It's a big deal in the corporate world. It's a big deal in the media world. It means that you know your onions. So just saying that you're a Pan Atlantic University graduate opens doors, not to talk of an MTN-MIP fellow. So it gave me a right standing rather, and a better negotiation standing as well. While I was at the MTN-MIP for the first time, Toke Makiwa was the one always hosting Miss Most Beautiful Girl in Nigeria for Silverbird. She was still a Silverbird. Then she left Silverbird. Silverbird was looking for someone from the outside to host, as always. And then they're like, oh, no, Victory is doing something at Pan Atlantic. One of the partners just said, she's doing something at Pan Atlantic University, and she knows how to host as well. Why not? Let her do it. From nowhere, 2 days to the event, I was made the official host of the event, and I hosted for the second time again this year. That was because I now had a certification to boost, to back up my talent. There's a place of education, there's a place of talent. Yes, one can succeed without the other, but when you have two, it's always a plus. It's always an extra advantage. And I'm grateful for the MTN-MIP. I also got to host for Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, many other multinational organizations that I can't even post their events because they don't want to be out there. German companies, Indian companies, and you know, it's been great and I am grateful. It's just been open doors from one open door to another, and the way people see you. Imagine I also received an award from Ghana. Ladies in media invited me all the way from Ghana to come receive an award and speak to the youth in Ghana. And when I got there, I met with other media practitioners in Ghana, and I'm hearing them say, "You make us look so serious," because I'm one that's keen on education. I love to read to attain certifications. Some people like to read for reading's sake, but I love to read to attain certifications. Yes, that's just who I am. I like to take up challenges. I like to, get new feathers to my heart, rather. And just knowing that you got this certification makes you look very serious. There's this prestige that comes with being an MTN-MIP fellow. It's not something that you can place your hand on, but just coming out and saying you're an MTN-MIP fellow, a graduate of Pan Atlantic University School of Media and Communications, is a big deal. It helps position you better. Also on the program, I got to host MTN events as well, which was a great boost to my career as well. But there's a place of grace of God, right? So that was in play, and I got to host a couple of their events, and I'm still hosting for them. So it just opened doors, basically, and I'm definitely not where I was before the program, and it just gives me the mind of gratitude, and I'm just generally grateful.
And gratitude is definitely the word, just in the words of Victory Wilson. I am grateful. Gratitude. To every cohort, every fellow that I've spoken to, they will always tell me, I am grateful, right? So for me, I am definitely grateful to MTN, grateful to Pan Atlantic University, grateful for the opportunity to meet and bond with amazing fellows. And as we journey and come to the conclusion and completion of this amazing fellowship, definitely the future is going to be a bang. And we all the fellows I'm talking about, we are getting ahead and ahead and ahead and ahead in our careers, and we are doing great and mighty things. So congratulations in advance as we look forward to our graduation in November. It's really going to be amazing. Our graduation is on the 29th of November at the Pan Atlantic University, Lekki, Lagos State. It's going to be amazing. You're all invited to the graduation, and to God be the glory. My name is Oma, your very sweetheart on radio, TV, social media, sweetheart everywhere. I love you. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, and thank you for this amazing journey. Thank you to MTN. Thank you to Pan Atlantic University. I love you so much. God bless you.
Loving somebody and somebody loves you back. My sweetheart on radio.